So I lost my job in London as a city trader, and that was the first biggest failure I've ever had in my life. And I remember the police telling me, like, you're going to jail, you're going to jail. And for a whole year, he was ringing me nearly every week, you're going to jail, you're going to jail. The court date came, I just had a mental breakdown and just vanished. 5 weeks. In those 5 weeks, I tried to take my life. Sitting in that prison cell afterwards, just like, how did this all go wrong? Like, you know, I was in a horrible, horrific place. And suddenly, I was finding a purpose for myself, and I had this determination. I had hopes. Like, when I'm out, I'm going to do these 4 lakes. I'm going to give it my best. Like, I'm not going to let my mistake define me. I'm not letting that prison number define me. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to give it my best. And I'm going to do those 4 world records.
So, David, I'm interested in exploring how you went from being ex-prisoner on the run for the police to an 8-time world record-holding paddleboarder and adventurer.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me here, and I can't wait to tell you my story and how I got there.
Excited to find out. So to kick things off, you were in your 20s, you'd had good education, boarding school, great job in the city, and then what? Losing your job and life just spiralling? Yeah,
so, I mean, growing up, I was never taught how to fail. Like, everything was sort of, I went to boarding school and everything was sort of just given to you and help you grow as an individual. But one thing they didn't do was teach you how to fail. And I didn't realise how big of effect that was going to have in my life and technically destroy my life, really. So I lost my job in London as a city trader. And that was the first biggest failure I've ever had in my life. So it took me ages to get there. I sort of did it on my own. And when that moment came that I lost my job, I just didn't know what to do. So I was dressing up every morning, putting my suit on, didn't tell my family, didn't tell my girlfriend, and I was pretending to go to work. But in reality, I was going to the casinos, I was gambling, and my drug use just went through the roof. And my mental health just crashed, and I went into this really dark place.
So you were... I remember a friend of mine telling me this years ago, and he didn't tell his wife, his kids, that he'd lost his job, but every morning he would still put the suit on and go out. And when you were doing that, you were going where, like during the daytime too?
So I was going to, like, you know, the bookie stores and then the casino. I started off trying to look for jobs, but because I've earned a lot of money, there's a lot of money sitting in my account, so I thought I've got to try and get more money. And I was thinking, gamble, but, you know, yeah, don't get me wrong, I won very few handful of times, but, you know, there is a saying, the house always wins, and it does.
Yeah.
And the moment I sort of went through all my money, the guy I was picking up drugs from knew I had connections in the city. He asked me to move some stolen goods, which I did, and that was the first time I actually got arrested.
How did you get arrested? How did they find out?
So he got caught for where the goods came from. Then text messages on the phone, and that involved me, and I moved the stolen goods. And I remember the police officer that arrested me was quite hard on me. And I've never had any experience with the criminal justice system at this point. I didn't know anyone's been arrested. And I remember the police telling me, like, you're going to jail, you're going to jail. And for a whole year, he was ringing me nearly every week, you're going to jail, you're going to jail, because I wasn't really talking. And I remember I ended up getting another job as a business development director for another finance company, earning some good money again. So my life was going up in one sense, but I was also keeping a secret that I was going to jail, and my mental health just went through the roof. Like, it was really bad. Again, I didn't tell anyone. My drug use at this point was terrible. And that day that the court date came, I just had a mental breakdown and just vanished. 5 weeks, and in those 5 weeks I tried to take my life. I was so focused when I was in prison the first time, so focused to leave prison, start making money again, get my own flat, get my own 2 feet. And when I came out of prison, I did that, but it went wrong again.
How did it go wrong?
So I came out of prison, I started working in recruitment. I ended up starting my recruitment agency, and that went really well. I was earning some good money. I got in a relationship.
So still in London or done?
No, came to Bournemouth. Then I got an office for my business out in Southampton, where the girlfriend at the time was. It was a great relationship at first. Then we started using cocaine together. Then it started getting toxic. Cocaine use got more. We split up. I ended up spending all my company's money. I was then spiraled out of control again with the cocaine. Then I found debt collectors at the door. No money, and stupidly in this sort of drug haze and, no money, I ended up turning back to the burglary. And that time I got 5 years, 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, and I remember the judge saying to me, if this happens again, you're looking at double figures now. We're looking at 10 years plus if this happens again.
For burglary.
Yeah, and I just remember sitting in that prison cell afterwards, just like, how did this all go wrong? Like, it took me a good 8 months just to pretty much clean myself, shave. Like, I was just so broken. The weight dropped off of me, everything. I just didn't know what to do. And I remember just had to get out of my cell, and I did this yoga and circuit day. So it was 8 hours of yoga and circuits. And I remember doing it. And I just felt really good. Like, even though my body was in prison, my mind was somewhere else. And this was the first sort of positive feeling I've had. And I remember speaking to the woman that ran the trainings, Dr. Sarah Lewis, Penal Reform Solutions. I just said to her, like, who are you? Like, and she told us that she's created this whole project based around the Scandinavian criminal justice system. Their reoffending rate, I think, is 23%, while ours is 75%.
Whoa.
Yeah, so she's tried to create these growth environments within prison. I was like, this is amazing. So I started working closely with Sarah. I started reading all these self-help books and doing all these courses. And I was just thinking to myself, like, where did it all go wrong? Like, growing up, I loved adventure. I was like, it was moving to London, letting go of that adventure side of me. That's where life sort of started to go wrong for me.
Yeah.
So I made a vow to myself, like, when I come out, I'm going to live through adventure. So I came up with the motto, freedom, that's the charity, through adventure we live is my motto. So I started trading. My mum was sending me surf magazines, stand-up paddleboarding magazines, and I was watching all this cool stuff people do in these magazines. And I was like, you know what? When I come out, I'm going to paddleboard the 4 longest lakes in the UK, and I'm going to attempt to set 4 world records in 4 days. I suddenly had a purpose. I had some hope, and I spoke to a personal trainer who was also an inmate with me. He put a regime together. I started talking to the prison staff. I then started organising marathons in the prison, just getting all these guys to get out of the cell and do sports. And suddenly, I was finding a purpose for myself, and I had determination. I had hope. So when I'm out, I'm going to do these 4 lakes. I'm going to give it my best. Like, I remember talking to some of the prison staff and even some of the fellow residents. It's what we call inmates resident. Okay. And I was telling them my story. They're like, it's your second time in prison. It's like, you're now part of the system. You're a prison number, and you'll always be a prison number. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to let my mistake define me. I'm not letting that prison number define me. I'm going to go out there, and I'm going to give it my best. And I'm going to do those 4 world records. And that's exactly what I did. Came out in lockdown, which was good. It made me slow down. And then I went and did those 4 lakes. Set my first 4 world records. And then what I learned about myself in those 4 days was better than any rehabilitation program that the government or the prison system put me on in that, 5, 6, 7, 8 year prison sentence that I've done. Like, it was absolutely amazing. And then from there, I just haven't looked back and just kept pushing myself.
What piece of advice would you give anybody listening or watching to help them get from where they are to where they want to be?
Obviously, know where you want to go, and just do reach out for support. Ask for the help that they want to do, and just do it. Don't be afraid. Don't listen to other people's judgments. If the people are judging you, it's usually because they're jealous or haven't achieved anything in your life. If you've got something you want to do in your life, take control, go and do it, and utilize as much support and help as you can, and don't listen to the haters, because there will be haters.
Amazing. David Haze, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.